You're watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome back to Morning at NTV, and this is the solutions segment. We will try and forge a way forward on the challenges that were highlighted by Chamagero on the ground. And with me today is Anne Muhanji right here. She is a life coach and a motivational speaker who is passionate about empowering people through equipping them with effective tools to live more productive lives. Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the other hand, I have Barbara Among. She is a journalist who has been in the profession for over a decade now, and she also is the country trainer for International Media Women Foundation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, it is something that we are passionate about as ladies on this table, trying to forge solutions to the challenges that are on the ground. And it is appalling that as Chamagero was actually interviewing people on ground, all the feedback we were getting is negative.
I saw that.
It's negative.
And I was taken aback. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's negative. People saying government has not done this, that. All these things that they want the government to step up and actually do for them. So I'll start with you, Barbara, as a journalist. How did we get to this state of affairs where we can actually go on ground and no one has something to say positive about the government?
Well, it's difficult really to say how we got here.
Okay.
But it's a number of factors,
Yes.
and a lot that's actually happening in the country. It didn't start now.
Yes.
It started, I think maybe it could be as old as Uganda is, where people, the understanding is that the state must do everything. Everything, and it's getting worse where you say the state must even come and sweep my compound, which is very sad. But then also on the other hand, you can't let the state get out of this. You can't let government get out of this by saying, okay, people are just complaining and complaining. The roles that the citizen can play and there are roles that the government needs to play. The government needs to create that environment where the citizens can thrive, where the citizens can build trust. The government needs to create that environment where other people can then come and work with the citizens to actually improve their lives, to improve the standard of living. So the factors on the sides of government. On the side of government is that we must have institutions. Institutions must be able to work.
Correct.
Countries that have developed are countries where there's institutions and the institutions actually work. And when institutions work, you then fight corruption. When institutions work, people get jobs on merit. When institutions work, actually schools, social services are provided, health, education and all that. So on the side of government, we need that. On the side of the citizen, you're supposed to exploit the opportunities that are actually being created by all that is in place. So there are actually several factors that can actually lead to this.
So it's actually two sides of the coin where the individual citizens can actually, you know, contribute to getting a better Uganda, and the parliament, the government has a role to play. But as we look at both sides, is it that we've been lagging? Because, you know, the citizens actually suffer as a result of maybe policies not being made, or if they're made, they're not made in a way that they can, you know, be favorable to the citizens. So is it that some leaders have not actually been held accountable? What factor is it? And you can take that one.
I think for me, the most important thing, it goes back to the value system that we have in society. And like she said, negativity in Uganda goes back, way back. The leadership, the government, the citizens, everybody, it is the value system. What core values do we have as a country? Do we have accountability? Are we transparent? Do we do we respect ourselves? Do we respect institutions that have been put in place? So at the end of the day, we're looking at leaders that need to come out and build a system that will empower people to get out, first of all, and take action that is either positive, but at least make sure that you're doing. The leadership also has to, like she said, create systems that have values behind them. Someone was talking about, if I go to police, as a common man, I will not be respected. And that is sad, just because the value system in the leadership is wrong, the value system within our law probably is wrong, and for me that is where we need to start. We need to build proper values so that everyone respects each other, and actually people take on roles that they have to do in society.
I would like to add something
Okay.
to what Anne said. She talked about culture.
Yes.
Culture and mindset. The culture and mindset actually plays a big role in the development of individuals within
Correct.
that, within that state or within that community
Correct.
and all that. The culture we have, and right now for me, this is not to maybe attack the born again faith and all that, but right now we've traded hard work for miracles in this country. You pray for a miracle to get a car, a miracle to get a house, a miracle. And yet this is actually about hard work.
Yes.
It's about hard work.
Yes.
For me is go to school,
Yes.
get a qualification, or
Yes.
even if you didn't go to school,
Yes.
get something to do. And having a car is a result of hard work. It's not miracles, no matter how much you pray. Having a house is not a miracle. It's actually a result of planning your life and
Yes.
hard work and all that.
Yes.
We've replaced hard work with miracles. We've replaced hard work, hours and hours in the industries or in your office or your organization with hours and hours in church.
Yes.
It's good to pray and all that.
Yeah.
Let's look at America, where we are borrowing this from, because most of our evangelists or our pastors actually do go to America for training,
Yes.
or do actually just copy this evangelist on TV. America does have a very high number of percentage actually of Christians.
Yes.
But it's one of the most developed countries in the world. Why? Because the God in America, is a God who says that I must live a good life here and now on earth.
Yes.
I'm not waiting for the next life in heaven for me to actually live a good life.
Yes.
While the God in Uganda, in our community or other African countries, is a God who then you have to pray for miracles to live a good life in the next life. You see, for me, in America, He has given us the talents.
Yes.
We have to exploit that talent.
So we are hiding behind
We are
laziness,
hiding behind
we are
that,
hiding
you
behind
see.
ignorance,
Yes.
and we do not want to face the fact that hard work is key. It's one of the
Exactly.
values.
Hard work is
Anywhere that you will go, you have to work hard.
So what is coming out strongly is we as individuals have a role to play to shape the lives we want to live.
Yes, it
That's
does.
correct.
It starts with you.
Okay.
Most people hide behind, the blame factor.
Yes,
it
the
is the
blame
government,
factor.
it is my neighbor,
Yes.
but it all starts with you. No matter what the situation,
Yes.
if you cannot have a change of mindset
Yes.
to say, this is what I want to be and I'm going out to get it, no matter what you do, you will not be successful.
And in your opinion, you've talked about culture mindsets and trying to transform that and change that to people thinking, and knowing that, if I'm to live a comfortable life, if I'm to live the life I actually see and foresee for myself and my family, it all lies in my hands. So does it
Exactly.
start at a family point of view, where parenting plays a very big role in actually shaping the mindsets of children to tell them, you don't get everything you want. Honey, you gotta work for it. Does it start at the parenting stage?
It does. Family is the background of every nation. And if you look back at, before people are villains,
Yes.
they are victims. So if you look at what people are, you have to look at where they've come from.
Okay.
The parents of today, we have given so much to our children. The millennials of this world are so entitled. Like, I need this and I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
I don't have to work for it.
Right now, yeah.
So the parenting system has to start there. Go back to what is it that I need to do to make my child survive anywhere.
Yes.
And of course also the education system. Someone talked about teachers not
Yes.
being trained.
Yeah.
The education system that we have is that is pushing for academics. So someone crams everything and then you employ
They
this
pass the
person
examinations.
and they have no clue who they are. So we need to go back to teach our children life skills, self-management,
Yes.
all those other soft skills, communication, people management,
Yes.
how do I stay with people,
Yes.
how do I negotiate, how
Yes.
do I plan, that is very key. Yes.
And do you think we have the correct institutions actually to train and to equip the young people on skill-based knowledge as opposed to books? You can take that.
I think before we even go to institutions, you see, my late father,
Yes.
used to tell us that, when he came home, I would gather everyone around, and I come from a very, very large family, large family that if we count ourselves right now, we're over 200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's like a full village
Oh,
almost.
wow.
Like
Cool.
if you count the children, the grandchildren, the great-great-grandchildren,
Yes.
and all that to the third generation,
Yes.
we're really many.
Wow.
But the example I'd like to give is that he managed everyone. He managed
Amazing.
everyone, even other people in the villages. You know, if your child did something wrong, they would send you to our museum
Oh,
because it was
wow.
tough and
Okay.
all that. And for me, every parent right now, when you ask them, who's the most important person in your house at home, they'll say, my children. And then they become bosses. They grow up knowing that we are the most significant people in this house. But my museum was like, I'm the most important person in this house. I make decisions.
Yes.
I train you.
Yes.
I discipline you. I provide and protect, you know. So he was the most important person in our house, followed by the mothers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then after the mothers, you know, there were even uncles and aunties, the elders who are living at home because we're an extended family. And then you, the children, come last. So you don't have that sense of entitlement. You know, I'm entitled to his property. I'm entitled to his money.
Yes.
I'm entitled. No. For him, his investment was education, okay? And with that education
brilliant.
came discipline,
Uh-huh.
okay?
Yes.
So the question every day was like, if you did something wrong, was like, who's the most important person in this house?
Oh, wow.
Could
You
it
have
be
to say
Barbara
that.
that
Oh,
also
wow.
because he was available? He was
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
he knew everybody.
That's a
Our
big
parents,
factor.
especially today's parent, is absent. And even if they're present, they're mentally absent.
Yes.
So the child is left to fend for themselves, and TV is growing our children.
TV and the nannies.
And the nannies.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
of course,
yeah, the environment has changed a lot. It's more demanding right now,
Yeah.
and for both, and you need both parents, the father and the mother, to actually work to be able to provide education, good education, not just any kind of education,
Yes.
to be able to afford medical care.
Correct.
The economic situation right now is very, very different from the ones that that our parents actually, or our grandparents actually grew up in, you know. So you had, in the past, you could take your child to any school,
Yeah.
and they would get good education,
Yes.
and they'll be able to compete with anyone across the country. Right now, you have to be very careful where you take your child to, the kind of education you want your child. Is it that where they just pump, cram, pass purely, and then they come out and they're like broilers, they can't function, you see? Or is it a kind of education that develops the child all through?
So
you know?
something has to be done about the curriculum. To
Definitely.
include more skill-based kind of lessons, if they have to, even if it means that the students have to stay in school for slightly longer, maybe an hour or two, for them to be trained in skill-based, you know, kind of knowledge.
and actually now that you talk about, like you said, everything starts with you.
Yes.
As a life coach, I sat back and I looked around, where should I take my children? I was looking for that school, probably the international schools, probably I wouldn't afford. And I'm looking for that school where I'm going to have a practical input, someone to teach my child life skills. So what we've done is to start what we call wholesome clubs. These wholesome clubs are out to teach the children life skills, self-management, all those soft skills that we talked about. I think if we start with ourselves,
Yes.
instead of saying, government, please change the curriculum.
Yes.
That curriculum change may come after 6 years. Your child is already grown. What are you doing as a parent? What are you doing as a leader?
Yeah.
What are you doing as a journalist? What are
Yes.
you doing to make sure that your environment is actually better?
Yeah.
These clubs, we have what we call the readers table, to promote the reading culture in schools. We have what we call Wanda. Wanda is for girls, to grow that confident lady. We have the bro. The bro is to bring back the man, to being the man of honor and
Amazing.
value.
Amazing.
That man who is
Amazing.
Barbara's father.
Amazing.
And
Amazing,
then
yes.
we're also doing what we call the Bankers Club, to teach them about saving. You know, our savings rate in Uganda is about 5%.
Yeah.
And it's the lowest in the
Yes,
region.
yes, yes.
So we need you, the person out there,
Yeah.
can you start with whatever that you have?
That small coin you have can
Yes.
actually make a difference in the long
A
run.
little, even if it's a drop in the ocean.
Yes.
When you multiply that with every drop, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so
Yes.
what's coming out strongly is our cultures, not just as society,
Yes.
but individuals. We need to have that shift. So I'll ask you, Barbara, as the media, we have that big role to play when it comes to shaping mindsets and transforming people from that negativity kind of, you know, flow of thinking to a positive mindset. You know what? If I have a challenge, let me just sit back a little bit and think about it, because the solutions actually lie within us. So has the role of the media actually been catapulted to shape that conversation?
Not yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah, yes and no, because the media right now is The media is supposed to play several roles, you know. We're supposed to educate, we're supposed to inform, we're supposed to give people news that they can actually use. News is a utility. A utility meaning that when I pick a newspaper or when I sit before my television and I listen to the host or I listen to the guest, I'm able to pick something that then I can use. Either something to inform me about my business, you know, if you're writing about taxes, taxations in this country, if you're talking about the new laws in this country, how then can this help me, you know, improve my business and all that. If you're talking about new policies that government is bringing up and all that. So as a journalist, you're supposed to educate people. So not just present news that is
Wholesome.
that is wholesome, you know, that is a utility that I can use to do that.
Yes.
So we do have a big role to play. It's a huge weight on our shoulder right now. Though the environment is different, media is more of now, the media houses are being run more as a business than media houses. So when you run it as a business, you take them away from their core traditional role to stories that can then sell. How much money is this story bringing in for me as the media owner?
And that's quite
in this country?
unfortunate.
So yes, it makes it very difficult to balance and all that. Because on the other hand, also, one of the professors at Columbian University, he says that that the media is supposed to comfort the afflicted and afflict their comfort. Okay, so if you're to comfort, the afflicted are the ordinary people, the citizens, the community, the people that you see every day, the ones who are crying right now that there are no hospitals, no roads, nothing is working, government is instead of taxing us and all that. You're supposed to comfort the afflicted as the media, then afflict their comfort, the people who are in there, who are corrupt, who are taking away the money that's meant for drugs, who are taking away who are not supervising the schools, who is not monitoring the teachers, who is not seeing that the syllabus is not being followed. They in their offices, all that they're doing is running after yellow vouchers and all that. As journalists, we're supposed to afflict their comforts. The comfort are people who are in government, people who are in there, people who are out there, who are actually, you know, just every single day thinking of how much money can I get out of this project, not thinking how this project should and or could, you know, benefit the community.
So there's actually a factor of accountability. Us as the media, we need to remember that we also need to hold our leaders accountable.
True. Yes, true.
And there's also this aspect of, fine, we need to educate, we need to inform, we need to make sure that people have all this knowledge and information they need to forge forward, be it in life, in business, in politics, in any kind of area. But every single day, and I think this is where we lag, and this is a conversation we need to start as the media. Have you noticed, when you sit down to watch the news, 99% is actually negative news. And that in turn actually, you know, shapes that culture. That culture, we're trying to run away from negativity because all we're feeding ourselves is negative stuff.
You know,
so
something.
I agree that there's need to
These days
balance.
I don't watch a lot of news. Neither do I buy newspapers many times, because what you feed your mind on every day will probably
affect you.
When you go out, it will affect you. Can we have the media deliberately go out and actually start promoting positivity and trying to empower people to keep it positive out of this misery? What is the gold that we can see? What is the silver lining that we can run? Yes, talk about the accountability, but what is it that we can do that is positive, that is different? I think that is key.
You had something to say?
I agree that there's a need for us to balance, because the first 10 pages of our newspapers is news, which is basically New Vision and the Daily Monitor, and then Book a Day, which is also a daily, and then so the first 10 pages is news, but then also, so the first 10 pages news, but again, 70% of what's contained in the first 10 pages is basically politics. So and then after that you have the features and every other aspect of the news. There's a need for us to balance, but then also we cannot, this is the setting in our society, that we feed so much on government. It's more of, you know, from the top to the bottom, and it's to do with our governance system, that the people do not have, the role of the citizen is not respected, where the people should have a say, on what the leaders do and how they do it.
Yes.
Basically, we employ them. But it's supposed to be a service that they're providing. But actually, right now, what we're doing is that they feel like they're employing us, actually.
Exactly.
You know? So the society is upside down. The role of the citizen is not recognized anymore. So as the media, it's difficult to balance at times because we're operating within the society. I know we are supposed to rise above all this and all that, but then the reality is you need to make money, you know, as a media house. At the end of the day, because of the going back to the ownership and advertisement and all that, but I agree that there's need for us to balance. Give utility.
Yes.
Could it be also
utility.
because the culture, we've now grown up, we are so caught up in the culture of not demanding for our rights. People just sit and complain. Some people go to a salon, you have a bad hairdo and you just sit with it and you cannot say anything.
And you move on.
And you move on.
And you pay.
It has gone through
Yeah.
society,
Yeah.
right from leadership to the last man, like you say.
I hear
No
you.
one can come out to say, this is what we want,
So-
and can you please provide it?
So it's about the culture and us being empowered to actually speak out.
Yes.
And amplify our voices. When you're not comfortable, say it.
Yes.
If you want something changed, say it.
Yes.
But you know, it's one thing to actually say it on an individual level. And it's another thing to actually amplify that voice as a group.
Yes.
Barbara, you're actually a trainer for Women in Media Foundation. Is this a conversation that you take on a day-to-day basis, trying to, you know, shape these female journalists and trying to equip them and tell them, you know what, news is not necessarily negative. News does not necessarily have to put much more negative pressure on ourselves. You can actually change the narrative. Because personally, actually look forward to a day whereby I will watch the news in the morning, I will watch the news at lunchtime and in the evening, and the first story is positive. I look forward to that day where I'll buy a newspaper across the board, regardless of which, you know, newspaper it actually is, and the first story is a positive story, celebrating, you know, champions in society, people who are doing big things. And you know, there are actually many, but we never talk about them. So what do you think can actually be done as you, as Barbara, as a trainer in media, specifically for women? Because we as women have a very major role to play in society. And I think if we are to have this conversation from negativity to positivity, we are the ones to take up on the mantle and tell, you know, our children, the youth, our husbands and our relations that, you know what, this is the direction to take. What do you have to say about that?
True. Like you said, I'm a trainer.
Yes.
I'm a media trainer.
Yeah.
And I do train both female and male journalists. But of course, 80% of the journalists that the International Women Media Foundation trains are actually female journalists.
Okay.
And this is to change the narrative.
Yes.
And then also because we've realized that the news is not balanced because the voice, the female voice, is lacking in the news. The male voice is so dominant.
Yes.
And because the male voice is so dominant in the newsroom, okay, so the female voice or the other side of it, you know, rarely comes out. Because every newsroom you go to in this country, you'll find that 70% are male. And then the other 30% is female.
Yes.
Now, when you move from the general newsroom to the leadership, it's even worse, where you find 95% is male and only 5% is actually female. And we're trying to change that. We're trying to change that by training them and empowering them and saying that you can actually go beyond just writing the social events, you know, to covering environment, to covering health, to covering politics, to investigations. You can actually do this because you have the capability of doing this. Someone just needs to nurture that. Someone needs to train you. Someone needs to ignite that. And that's the kind of training that we give them to change the narrative, you know. And the other thing is peer mentoring, that I think it's what is generally lacking in our society. Peer mentoring in the business world, peer mentoring in the corporate world, in the journalism world, where that I go to Anne because I know Anne has got something extra. I know Anne, actually, she's much better than me. She's more talented in this area. So I'll go to Anne to peer mentor me. So that's what we're trying to do. Let this female journalist, or let this journalist actually have peer mentors, okay? That it's not just class down every single day, but you have your peer who is mentoring you. You have, and the question of mentorship in this country, okay? Look at our politicians, who is mentoring them? look at our businessmen who is mentoring them
That's a
to be
big
the
question.
best business person.
Yes.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
think across board we do not have succession planning.
We do not
right
have
in
that.
our, from
we do
our
not have that.
organizations,
Yes.
even families.
Yeah.
Yes.
You find a head of family goes down with everything that they have built.
Exactly.
We do not have fourth generations that are talking about where they have come from.
Yeah.
We do not have legacies of love,
Yeah.
of wealth.
Yeah.
And even in our leadership, in our institutions that you're talking about, succession planning is key.
Is key.
And that mentoring she's talking about
Is key.
is very
But
important.
the question is, for example, now for the females that you're training at the foundation, how then do they go about mentoring? Because mentoring is quite sensitive. It's a sensitive topic. Because, for example, I might look at the both of you and maybe there's someone, one of the young people maybe watching would be like, how do I get on? How do I get Barbara as a mentor? But now it has to be two-way traffic. This lady or this young person needs to be ready to be mentored.
True.
And you, as the person who has made it, who has authority, who has all this knowledge, you have to be ready to take time and to invest and to, you know, pour into this young person's life. And that is lacking, because you can have a person who is ready to be mentored, but the mentor that she's looking up to is not ready to mentor.
But like you said, it's an investment. You need to invest time and resources in the person that you're going to do.
But how
For
does
example,
it start? How does it start?
example,
Like
at the
helping people
international-
plug into that mentorship, you know, kind of thing. Telling people, okay, fine. I don't know how we can do it, because the lag is, how do I get that mentor? And will this mentor hold my hand on a long term and actually see me succeed and tell me, you know what, now you're at a good place, you can now fly on your own, and actually empower you to mentor others. I think that's the lag.
Because that's from an individual, like
exactly.
we've said.
Because we who are at that point where we can actually mentor, we are unreachable.
I think
By the time I book an appointment with you, Anne, unless I get your personal number.
Yes, that is true. But I
It's
think
hard.
let's start from...
So how do we
it
open
starts
up
with the
those
individual.
channels? Yeah.
As a leader, you need to have coaching intertwined in your leadership.
Yes.
And then it goes back to, what is your passion? Because when you're doing, I'm sure Barbara here has a passion for journalism and for information and for training. That's where she comes from.
Yes.
And therefore, if you coming from that point of view of I am passionate, and therefore, whatever passion that I have, I will build lives in that area. I think it starts there.
So
and
it
then
starts from an individual wanting to pour out.
Wanting to pour out.
Okay.
And it's not just about money, but it's something beyond you. But on the other side of the ones that are mentees,
Yes.
we also need to look out. Anne needs a mentor.
Yeah.
I have to have a deliberate effort to look out and say, who can I look out for to feed my life?
And actually
to talk
search
to me.
out for them.
And it's a search.
Yes.
Just like you go out and search for who should come to this show.
Yes.
I should go out and say, who is that person I can talk to?
And stalk them till you get them.
Until you get them.
Exactly.
And I think
Yes.
that is the passion, that is the fire that we're looking for. Otherwise, people just sit back and think everything is going to come to them. So it goes back to both the mentors and the mentees.
Thank you so much. We're grateful. Thank you so much for that insight. You have heard it. In case you want to add more onto this conversation, or you have questions, comments, suggestions, we have our handles, our social media handles displayed on your screen. Feel free to ask them. Let them come in. We will be happy to answer those. They will be happy to actually come through and answer those. And in case you need them as mentors, also make sure we get that information. So this has been the solution segment. We have Flavia on standby.